Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. My name is Valeria Savenko, and I am a go-to-market lead for IoT and mixed reality here at Microsoft. The Internet of Things is rapidly changing the world around us and transforming a huge range of physical objects through digital intelligence. And beyond our smart personal devices, IoT is changing the way companies do business, helping them become faster, smarter, safer, and just more efficient. This is why we come together with LAB3 and Meshed as part of this webinar to help you understand how you can adopt IoT solutions. And just before we get started, I would like to introduce two of our incredible partners. That is LAB3 and Meshed. LAB3 is an award-winning 13 times Microsoft Gold partner with 5 advanced specializations across analytics, Kubernetes, migration, security, and Windows Azure Virtual Desktop. And we've worked with LAB3 on many IoT projects in industries like mining and agriculture. And Mesh is an Australian-based LoRaWAN IoT integration company delivering private and public LoRaWAN solutions. And in IoT, low-cost and reliable network is one of the crucial elements. And it's great to have Mesh on the call to share how they are helping their customers focus on problems with the data and analytics that they collect rather than worrying about the underlying infrastructure. And with that said, I'm going to pass over to David to kick it off. And over to you, David.
Hi, thanks for joining the webinar today. My name's David Mansfield and I work at LAB3 and I work in the area of data, AI and IoT. I have taken this opportunity to speak today to talk about where IoT's come from and how it's matured, why it is we're not getting the success we're getting today and how we can achieve that, and why it is that you're fundamentally essential to us achieving that level of success. When I start on where we came from, I cast my mind back 10 years. And I remember one of my sales guys telling me, Dave, this IoT stuff, you might as well just put my ID tag in front of it. And I think you can see from this slide what it is trying to say. Now, he was a smart guy. And he, there's not a lot of words that start or have IoT in them even. But what was happening was there was a lot of confusion around IoT at that stage. It was kind of new. There are a lot of players with their own agendas. It was like the Internet of Things, the Internet of Valuable Things, Industry 4.0, the Internet of Everything. There were so many terms going around. There's a lot of spin, and it got really confusing. Of course, it wasn't really that difficult. If we look at IoT, like back then I was at a telco, it had a lot of overlap with what we were doing in machine-to-machine or M2M. But I think it had even more overlap with SCADA systems. And they'd been around for about 50 years at the time. So they started in the 60s. And so SCADA had been around for a long time. The real difference was that instead of being focused on devices and processes, IoT had a real focus just on the data and sharing that data. Fast forward a couple of years from there, say 5 years ago, I was running a team of IoT salespeople. And I gave my team this mantra of unlock the silos, set the data free. Now, unlock the silos, that was a direct reference to basically taking that data that was in those old like data historians, all those SCADA systems that have been there and sort of a little bit closed, effectively moving that data into the cloud and sharing it broadly across the whole business or even outside the business to suppliers or customers and so on. So it was very data focused, data centric. And we did a lot of business with IT teams, and the IT teams were very much on board because for them, it was all new technology. They were getting access into the operational technology part of the business, which was previously pretty closed. They had new security tools to try in there. They were able to analyze the data coming out of it, make recommendations on how it could be done better, that kind of thing. So we did a lot of projects with IT teams, a lot of proof of concepts. But they always hit the same wall. And that was when we went to the operations team to say, let's make this real and make it big as a part of the business. It would always wither and die. And in retrospect, it's pretty obvious why, because IoT started off as not particularly clear what it was. It wasn't mature enough. It wasn't secure enough. We're talking about running on networks that historically are critical, not just to the business, but potentially to human life, even though these are really industrialized networks that you couldn't just come in and throw a new concept into. Add to that, the OT teams, they've been managing those networks for years. And frankly, I think there was a little bit of a divide between IT and OT, especially back then. It's gotten better, and they didn't necessarily want IT looking over their shoulders either. So if we fast forward to today now, and like I said, IT and OT are much closer, and I think that's the main reason we're getting a lot more IoT, AI data projects going, and we're seeing an acceleration of those. It's getting faster and faster. And perhaps to illustrate that, we'll go to the Microsoft Signals report. If we look at this report, you can see that adoption's great across utilities, oil and gas, but when you look over to the right of this slide, you can see that a quarter or less than a quarter of these IoT projects are getting to the use stage. Right? That means more than 3/4 of them are basically being invested in, but are not yielding any kind of business benefit. Right? And obviously, that's not a great outcome. We need to make sure that that's better. But this is a global stat. If we drill in to the countries, and you see how the survey was conducted across here, we see how Australia rated. The IoT adopters, like there's 96%, that's world leading. But what concerns me, one of the main reasons I wanted the chance to share this with you today, is that our projects in use are the worst, they're the lowest, it's 18%. So we've got less projects actually providing value to the business on average than in all these other countries surveyed. Now, I think that that's probably really leading to that bottom line there of businesses that are planning to use more IoT over the next 2 years. We're right down at the tail end. And for me, I think this is a problem because IoT is transformational. It provides huge boosts to productivity. And if Australia stops going down that path or slows, it's going to affect our competitiveness on a global stage. So what I wanted to take you through, I think, is the 3 main things we need to focus on to lift that, how many of them make it to the use phase. And for me, it's what I call the 3 Ps of IoT success, which is all about the plan, the people, and the platforms. So if I perhaps go through those in a bit more detail and how at LAB3 we overcome these, the first one is plan. And with your plan, the first thing that often isn't done properly, and it's pretty fundamental, is around cost. You need to know what the costs are to be able to work out, should you be doing this IoT project? And at the end of it, measuring, was it successful? And so it's the cost of the area you're trying to improve. What is the cost today? It's what is the cost of the solution I want to be putting in? It's how much will I be saving once I've got it in? It's also, and this one's often neglected, what is the cost of the change management and the change process I have to make in my business? Like there's always an impact. If you're not changing your business because you've got this new capability, then you're not doing anything different. You're not going to benefit. So there's always a change cost, and it's often overlooked. So at LAB3, really, we wouldn't proceed on a project without a very clear plan that captures all those costs and what it's trying to achieve, has a business case. So no plan means we're going on a fishing expedition where we're just collecting data and hoping value emerges. So that's not what we do. If you need help with building a plan for your IoT project, then we do that too, where we'll help make a plan. You don't have to just bring the plan. And so we have assessment services around IoT and data to build that plan. We also have solution kits that already basically they solve a business issue you may be seeing, or they offer a way to improve a part of the business, and it's already been planned, it's already been implemented, and it's ready to be deployed, so you can get a real business problem being solved, real business value right from the first day it's deployed. So that's the plan side, and it's essential. We can't proceed without the plan. The second P was people. Now, the people, there's a lot of people that need to be involved, and often it's usually just a few. But the people you need involved are the executive team. They're not always involved. You can start a proof of concept without the executive team, but it's no use doing that if the executive team isn't going to sign off on actually making it so the business can deploy it widely and get the benefit. And they're going to need to sign off on it. When you look at from the plan phase, we know the process changes that need to be made across the business. There'll always be a sign off at that level. You need to have your end users engaged, because again, if the end users aren't using the solution, again, that's an immediate failure. You're not going to get the value. And because you've built a plan, you should know what the interconnected domains are. So there will be other areas adjacent to the area where we're improving the way the processes work, or the way, or just improving the productivity, and they will probably need to make some changes too. I think most importantly, we have the domain experts. So people who deeply understand the area that we're improving, they need to be involved. Now, you talk about all these people, and I find overwhelmingly that the majority of them come out of the operational teams. And so whenever I start one of these projects, one of the first questions I ask is, who from the ops team is involved in this? And if there's no one, that's a huge red flag for me. I think we need to get better at engaging the OT team. And if they're not an OT-led project, which most probably should be, considering most of the value of IoT is in that domain, then we have to make sure we've got the right OT people involved. Now, if there's gaps in the domain knowledge, or if we need to improve on the domain knowledge that's there, then LAB3, we bring in experts who can help with the cloud, with the Azure, and as Val said at the start of this, there's no one better in Australia at working on an Azure project. We've got 13 times gold partner, 2 silver, 5 advanced specializations, but we do recognize we're not the expert at everything, which is why we run an elite partner program, and we bring in people like Uptake for their world-leading reliability, preventive maintenance algorithms and knowledge, bring in people like Stantec with their vegetation management, with flood predictions, with their water management capabilities. And so what we do is we fill in all those gaps. Engaging LAB3 means all those domain gaps are going to get plugged with the world-leading knowledge, and we offer you all of their established IP and their hard-earned scientific knowledge, and we provide it all to you, so it's ready to use in your solution. The third P, and I think this is where we're missing a trick at the moment, and it's just because things have changed over time, we perhaps haven't kept up. The third P is the platform, and it's, when we first started, the first wave of platforms was a lot of tech people came in. I kind of touched on it at the start. We had they were experts in cloud. They knew all about these new technologies and protocols, and they came in. They wanted to run all these POCs. I was one of them. Said we can do anything, and we could, but it wasn't really right at the right standard. So there's lots of proof of concepts. They just didn't have the domain knowledge to provide business benefit. So there was a real gap there. The second wave came in, and I think the reason we're seeing useful IoT projects is because in this second wave, there were a lot of companies that were domain experts that were starting to pull together the bits and pieces of cloud and trying to put together a bit of a platform to use their domain knowledge on. And these were pretty focused, and they did provide business benefits. The issue is that they would solve one solution or a small subset of solutions. So you install one, maybe deploy a second, maybe there's a third, and you fast forward 3 to 5 years, and how many of these are you going to have deployed? How many different apps, platforms? How are you going to maintain and monitor all of those? It's you need to be trying to move all of those together, and that's where IoT has matured now. It's really become commoditized, where you need to be choosing an ecosystem play, like an IoT solution for your business, rather than these individual little problem-focused bespoke solutions. It's kind of like with Microsoft Office, you'd use all of Microsoft Office. You're not going to go and use Apple Keynote instead of PowerPoint. You're not going to use Google Sheets instead of Excel. Like, it makes no sense because they don't interoperate that well. You want one ecosystem to get all the benefits broadly across the whole suite. So it's being commoditized. If you're going to choose one platform, I think you need to go with one of the hyperscalers. So you're really down to Microsoft, Google, or Amazon. Again, for the same kind of reasons that if you've got Word, you use Excel and PowerPoint. Most of the businesses we work with, they already use Microsoft Azure. They use Microsoft Office. And so it makes sense to use Microsoft Azure because you're probably also using Outlook, Exchange, SharePoint, Teams, and it goes on. One ecosystem. So we think out of the hyperscalers, and the hyperscaler we back is Microsoft, because we think in the long run, they will become the clear leader in this space and offer the most advantage. So choosing a hyperscaler is absolutely key. The reason you would use LAB3 in this case, and what we bring to the table, is not only are we the best at Azure, we also we don't lock in. It's your tenant. So we can host it in our cloud, and you can get all the advantages of it being ready to go and already locked down, secure, and not putting a risk of your environment and all the change process you'd have to go through in your environment. But you also maintain the sovereignty to move it into your environment. You're not locked in with us. In fact, if we're doing this together, the goal is that you can switch off your arrangements with LAB3 and have someone else continue on with the project without having that lock-in effect. So that's the open way that you need to be doing your IoT on a hyperscaler rather than little bespoke solutions. Okay, so I think those are the three areas where we can really get some more improvement in how we go from starting an IoT project and getting it through to that use where the business is really benefiting from the investment it's made. Now, I'll take the opportunity to talk just a little bit about LAB3 so you know where I'm coming from. If you look at this slide, you can see that we're more than just an IoT company. We've actually got 5 pillars. Each is a highly successful industry-leading pillar in its own right, but they all help each other. Again, that ecosystem effect where we get the benefits of one pillar in another. So we particularly leverage the security, the networking, the cloud, and even in some ways the modern workplace pillars in our data, AI, and IoT pillar. LAB3 has its own manufacturing area. We create our own devices and sensors and manufacture them ourselves. We deploy LoRaWAN, Wi-Fi networks, so that all these things can be connected. So we can offer truly end-to-end solutions. But I think what really makes us stand out is not only are we right at the forefront of all the technology and the cloud and all of this capability, we also have deep operations experience within our business. People who understand the level of security and reliability that you need to have when you're deploying into an operations environment. Whenever we implement these types of solutions, we always implement using the purging model. So that means that we're using all the proper layers as we go down through SCADA networks or whatever devices might be in the field, where we're carefully just going in and lifting data out of historians in the DMZ, or maybe we're going down into the control and process planes to collect data, always observing the purging model. The same when we're sending set point recommendations down to all of those devices, again, through layer by layer recommendations. We're not controlling those devices because we understand that there are times when it might be dangerous to set certain things to certain values, and there's already lots of safeguards and knowledge built into those underlying devices. So the recommendations will flow down. Probably the final area I think where you can really benefit from the way we go about this is if we are collecting data, especially new data that hasn't been collected before, we like to publish it so that the existing SCADA systems and so on and data historians can also benefit from that data. So we use things like OPC UA to publish that data out for a broader benefit. Of course, there's all these systems, devices, networks, database, all these things talking to each other, but at some point, humans have to get involved. And so I'd like to just quickly show you the user interface that you might see or some examples. So I'll just take you through these now. What you're seeing here are the solution kits that solve the real business problems I mentioned earlier. Here we use satellites to measure vegetation health, allowing us to discover underground pipeline leaks and risk areas where power lines and trees might interact and start fires. Where issues are detected, we use drones to build 3D environments. This gives you a detailed view to properly assess the risks and to plan any remediation work that may be necessary. In this solution kit, you can see land movement. Again, we get the data from drones flying over the mine site each day. You want to be looking at the areas that are green because they show where the land is subsiding. Examining these areas and how they move over time is how you can detect wall collapses before they happen. Our digital twin capability allows you to fly around a city, measure the height of towers, the length of streets, the volume of buildings, the area of parks, really interact with the 3D model, and at the same time see all the data coming from the city's sensors. Of course, we do predictive maintenance and equipment optimization as well. This increases productivity and lowers total cost of ownership across a broad range of assets, from trucks, diggers and graders to transformers, pumps and compressors. We can predict the next breakdown, why it'll break down, and what the broken parts will be. As you can see, it's a first-class user experience as well. So in summary, what I want you to go away thinking about is that you need to focus on those 3 Ps. You've got to have a plan, build a business case. If you can't, we have solution kits where it's baked in, or we can help you with our IoT and data assessments to build that plan. You've got to bring in the right people. So that's executives, end users, those domain experts. But I think most importantly, it's got to be the operations team, the people. Like most of the value of IoT is in the operations area. So we need to make sure that the people who work in that area and understand that area are involved. And then, of course, bring in LAB3 and our Elite Partner Program to make sure you've got world-leading solutions in the cloud and in that domain itself. So where we bring in those domain experts. And finally, use the right platform, which I covered just before, the user interface. Bring in a hyperscaler. I recommend Azure. I think they're the horse to back in the long run. And make sure that you've got control of the platform, of the sovereignty to move around. Don't get locked into some bespoke kind of solution, because you'll end up with 10 of them and it will be a nightmare as time goes by. Now I'd like to introduce Meshed, our go-to technology partner for the LoRaWAN networks that underpin our IoT solutions. Over to you, Catherine.
Thank you, David and Val, for having the great opportunity to be here today. I'm delighted to be part of this very exciting partnership with Microsoft and LAB3. So together, we're actually the team delivering proven enterprise-grade Internet of Things and artificial intelligence solutions. And we're focusing on real business challenges for the intelligent asset management community. So I'm Catherine Caruana-McManus. I'm a co-founder of Meshed IoT Integrators. The company was formed at the end of 2015 with the single purpose to deliver secure and scalable Internet of Things solutions underpinned by the global open LPWAN connectivity standard LoRaWAN. Now, at the time, there was a lot of uncertainty about the viability of LoRaWAN, considering the pending competition of 5G, NB-IoT, and Cat-M1. But 5 years on, the global market share of LoRaWAN in the LPWAN segment is just over 40% across all connected devices globally. Meshed is now the premier provider of collaborative IoT solutions across the region. We have deployed public access LoRaWAN across all major populations in Australia. But let's focus around why LAB3 is looking at LoRaWAN as a terrific fit-for-purpose technology. The key benefits of LoRaWAN are its portability. The devices are battery operated. The gateways can be solar powered. Anybody can actually deploy a LoRaWAN network. The other key benefit is its ability to connect devices in long range, which could be from 1 kilometre to 50 kilometres line of sight. But the beautiful thing about LoRaWAN is it's bi-directional, it enabling sensing and actuation. And given it's a global open standard, this has opened up a massive ecosystem of hardware manufacturers and IoT applications. Most importantly, though, for asset managers, LoRaWAN has end-to-end encryption embedded into the fabric of its specification, from devices, gateways, network server environments to the application and integration layers. So giving assurance to operations, asset and facility managers, their data is highly protected and vulnerabilities are minimized. And I think this is a key reason why LAB3 is comfortable in recommending our IoT solutions to its customer portfolio, given the very strict security requirements in adding IoT as a complementary layer for low-cost real-time data acquisition to help inform SCADA, BMS, and asset management systems. COVID has also accelerated the adoption of the Internet of Things, specifically in remote monitoring and providing safer work environments. For example, Meshed has deployed hundreds of CO2 sensors for the University of Melbourne across all its campuses, using a combination of both outdoor and indoor connectivity. The real-time data is being used to inform ventilation systems with thresholds set to activate window and door openings via the BMS. But if I was to think about the success of our business, I would have to say it has been largely due to the incredible disruptive business model of the Things Network, which was founded in Amsterdam in late 2015. The Things Network is the world's largest single decentralized public access LoRaWAN, which has been a reliable, innovative platform for my business to grow its IoT solutions across the Australian and New Zealand region. The Things Network is also an amazing platform for companies to innovate, using it for fast and agile prototyping, testing, and proof of concepts in preparation for scalable deployments. However, for the intelligent asset management sector, which requires service level agreements for their mission critical applications, we provide a private network server using the Meshed X environment based on the Things Stack Enterprise Edition. If I was to think about our opportunity with customers, we really focus on the change management and governance aspects of these projects. And as David has critically highlighted, it's important to understand and to work closely with both the operational technology and the information technology stakeholders, as well as those involved in customer experience. As a systems integrator, we're able to immediately integrate the real-time sensor data into the LAB3 SensorMind platform, using standard integrations from the Things Stack to Azure. And over the years, we've amassed a device catalogue of over 450 sensors, and hence can integrate a wide range of fit-for-purpose sensors to ensure the right type of data is being collected to meet customer requirements. Hence, we're always really excited to partner with innovative solution providers such as LAB3, who can also bring their own intelligent edge computing devices and solutions, and that can marry into our interoperable architecture. So with that background and context, I'd really love to share with you some current case studies that demonstrate the flexibility of our connected LoRaWAN solutions. For a major mining organisation in the Pilbara region, we've set up a flexible environment for GPS tracking on mobile watercraft and ships to the outer harbours, with the data being ingested into SensorMind. For a major port authority in Western Australia, their journey with the Internet of Things started over 12 months ago in the use of our Smart City Starter Kit, which is an out-of-the-box solution including gateway, sensors, managed dashboard, and technical support. But now with the technology proven and providing valuable insights, they are now scaling significantly with their LoRaWAN deployment, with many use cases including digital water metering, GPS tracking of mobile assets, and server room occupancy monitoring. For a global manufacturing organisation, we've provisioned a factory-wide network to help inform 24/7 what is happening across their factory floor, IT and server rooms across their two major ports and logistic hubs. GPS trackers are being used on the internal rail systems, whereby status and condition monitoring, which has been a 30-year-old problem, is now getting the attention it deserves using the Internet of Things. Other key use cases are voltage monitoring on critical battery stores, temperature, pressure, and vibration monitoring on equipment. And the data is being ingested into their digital twin via MQTT, with the mesh dashboard being used for device and network monitoring. And for something a little bit more colourful, for a global property organisation, we've activated a smart precinct at the very popular entertainment district of Hamilton North Shore in Brisbane. The key use cases include smart solar street lighting, pedestrian counting, urban heat and river level and flood monitoring, weather stations, and even smart bins. The precinct is now being prepped for the 2032 Olympics, which is being promoted as the world's smartest games, supporting sustainable cities and futures across environmental, social, and economic dimensions. Together, we are really keen to engage in discussions on how the Internet of Things can support your operational needs. So feel free to reach out to us via LinkedIn.
Thanks, Catherine, and thanks everyone for watching.